right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, man, we're in a negative period of Jets football, right? The team keeps losing. They're 3-7. It's just you have question after question about ownership. Is Woody going to leave? Is he going to have a decision in who he hires next? Is Chris Johnson going to be taking over? What's going to happen at head coach? What's going to happen with the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers and that whole situation? But in this one, I wanted to just simply focus on something positive, which is the next general manager of this football team. Now, ideally, I don't want to be making this video in the middle of the season, let alone before Thanksgiving. But we have to take a look at where we're at, right? 3-7. You can talk about Joe Douglas having an excess of first-round picks, spending over $400 million since he's taken over in 2019, and the career record is 30-62. He has been here for years, season after season after season, to build this team the way he wants to build it, and we are currently picking within the top 10 if the season were to end today, and we are 1 or 2 games out from having a top 3 pick. Not good. Not good at all. Not to mention the team has not even reached 500. Think about that. 500. 9-8, 8-9. We have not gotten to that point since he's taken over. And it's not to say that the Jets were in a fantastic position before he took over, right? Obviously. But look, we're living in a day and age where teams can turn it around quickly, despite the mainstream narratives out there. You know, think of the reaction when Washington hired Dan Quinn. Look at what they're doing this season. What was the reaction when the Lions hired Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell? You know, compared to what it is right now. We could talk about the Houston Texans turnaround last season. I mean, they went from just bottom dweller, just coach after coach after coach, quarterback after quarterback, questions, Deshaun Watson drama, this and that. And now all of a sudden they are going to be winning the AFC South again. And they have their quarterback, they have their coach, they have all these different things going for them in one season. So yes, I understand that things are dark right now in Jets land, but I will say this, in this day and age, where you have, you know, from a physical standpoint, college players more ready for the NFL, and you have teams more willing to adopt college philosophies, you see these quicker turnarounds. And with that comes some hope for the future. So in this one, I wanted to talk about 6 general manager candidates, guys that I feel are either qualified for the job and or great fits for the job. Let's start with the 2 most popular guys first. The 2 guys that everyone knows, the 2 guys that are instantly linked to every single team that needs a general manager, right? When there is a team out there that is cleaning house, a team that fires their GM, these 2 guys get brought up almost every single cycle to almost every single team. The first candidate here, Mike Borganzi, assistant general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, everyone loves this dude. 16 years with the Chiefs, obviously 3 Super Bowl championships with this organization, and it just seems like he's the hot candidate, right? He's the guy. I mean, the Chiefs are kind of the just outlier. They are incredible, right? And I hate to admit it, right? Because it's a fellow AFC team. But when you talk about, I mean, just point to anything, right? Coaching, Reed, Spagnuolo. You feel like they're at the forefront of innovation. You feel as though they're one step ahead of every other team in football. Quarterback development, player development overall. They know who they are. They know who they want to be. They know how to sign, trade, and draft players that fit their system, that fit what they want to do. And the second that they get there, they start moving in the right direction. And Borganzi, again, he's well talked about across the league. People want this dude. Again, 16 seasons with the Chiefs and really worked his way up within the organization. Back in 2011, 2012, he was a scout, then got promoted to assistant director of pro scouting. Then in 2015 through 2017, director of player personnel. Then 2018 through 2020, he was the director of football ops. And then 2021 through today, assistant general manager. And the Kansas City Chiefs drafts have been A+. They have been spot on. I mean, just talk Karlaftis, Creed Humphrey, McDuffie at corner, Trey Smith, right? Former 5-star stud coming out of high school, commits to Tennessee, right? Doesn't really have the career that everyone would have hoped for at the collegiate level. Had tackle experience, had guard experience. The Chiefs bring him in the mid rounds, and he's been a consistent starter for them ever since. So the Chiefs know what they are doing. And if the Jets could possibly, right, pluck someone from that staff, especially someone who's as highly regarded as Borganzi here, that would just be an A+ hire. Again, he's the favorite, I would say, for the majority of jobs out there. It's not like the Jets are just going to be the only team that needs a general manager, right? The Saints moved on from Dennis Allen, but it still looks like Mickey Loomis can keep his job. But what's going to happen? I mean, there's a lot of spots that could see a potential shakeup. So nothing is a guarantee here, but the good news, there are plenty of options for the Jets at the general manager position, and we're starting with, I would say, the most popular. The other most popular candidate who's talked about every cycle is Ed Dodds from the Indianapolis Colts. Currently, he's their assistant general manager, started back in 2018 up until now. Actually kicked off his NFL career as a scout in Seattle back in 2007. And then post 2016, he actually took over as a senior personnel executive. He's well-rounded. He's well-respected. Again, talked about and known about throughout the NFL. These top two candidates, you feel as though, you know, if they want to go somewhere, all they have to do is really just wait for the opening, and then they can go out, interview, and, you know, get the job and move forward. It's very similar to Ben Johnson, right? He's very selective on his potential destinations. He's not signing on just to sign on and be a head coach. Like, he wants the perfect gig. I mean, he was connected to like every single team last season. The Vikings, Washington, Seattle, all these different squads. And there were multiple reports that he's turned down multiple big-time gigs. But I digress. Dodds seems to be one of these guys that will be getting a general manager gig in the near future. Next up, Terrance Gray, the director of player personnel for the Buffalo Bills, someone who spent a lot of time, 16 years with the Minnesota Vikings, took over with the Buffalo Bills in 2017 as that director of player personnel. And he's done a great job of just working his way up through the organization. And Buffalo is, I mean, man, you want to talk about just a well-rounded team from every single, you know, stop you look, from coaching to player development to free agent targets to drafting to financials, whatever, ownership, whatever it is. The Buffalo Bills, it's just a well-oiled machine. It's just in constant motion forward. They can lose players. They can let go of these, you know, big name vets, and they don't miss a beat. They have star players get hurt, and they're fine. You know, it's these situations where, you know, they just continue to keep on churning, and they know who they are. They'll lose Brian Daboll. We'll go with Ken Dorsey. We have a top 10 offense, and yet it's still not up to our standard. We're going to move on from him and bring in the next guy, Joe Brady, promote him from QB coach to OC. And the Buffalo Bills offense has not looked back. They are obviously continuing to be one of the best teams in football. And it's very alluring to see a team within the AFC East, right, kind of as we transitioned out of the Patriots dynasty with Belichick and Brady. Thankfully, that's over. But now we have the Buffalo Bills to deal with. And again, it just doesn't seem like they miss a whole lot when it comes to the draft. It doesn't really seem like they miss a whole lot when it comes to free agency. And by the way, the common denominator here with all of these well-ran teams, they know who they are. Like, I'll throw out a team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, you can think of what a Steeler looks like. Physical, tough, high IQ, high on-field IQ. Throw out another team, the Baltimore Ravens, the Detroit Lions. You have something tangible that you can point to when you're talking about these teams that know who they are. They have an identity. With the Jets, right? What are we? Are we a good rushing attack? Not really. Do we come prepared? Nah, not really. Are we well disciplined? You know, do we not get flagged a lot? Nah, not really. Are we great on special teams? Nope. How about on defense? Are we this tenacious group up front? Nah, not really. It's just a million questions. We don't know who we are. So I think it's pretty attractive for the Jets to target someone within their own division, someone who's been a part and who has seen a lot of winning, someone who knows how to get it done, somebody who has been a director of player personnel, so someone coming over from the scouting side of it, taking someone away from a rival. That is awesome. Now, of course, it's not a perfect science. It doesn't work out every single time. Look at the New York Giants. Joe Shane, Brian Daboll, both were like the hot, commodities coming out in that specific cycle, and it has been a complete disaster. But here's the deal, right? Nothing is, you never have the perfect blueprint. You're always going to take a risk, in some fashion, no matter who you hire at any position. And also, let's not go down the path of, oh, well, Joe Shane came from the Buffalo Bills, therefore everyone else that comes from Buffalo is going to follow suit. Let's not, take Joe Shane's failures out on Terrance Gray. I think Terrance Gray is definitely qualified to be a general manager in the NFL. Next up, Ray Agnew, assistant general manager for the Detroit Lions. Former player, actually, for 10 years, and he is a Super Bowl champion. He was the Rams director of player personnel from 2017 through 2020, joined the Detroit Lions in 2021 as that assistant GM, and has not looked back since. The turnaround with the Detroit Lions has been flat out incredible. I mean, it's truly incredible. Lots of people made fun of the Dan Campbell hire. And I mean, because Detroit was just churning through guys, Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia, that whole, situation. But the Lions, to me, really focus. They really focus on the intangibles, right? With all of the players that they draft, all of the free agent targets, there's a sense of aggression and toughness, that mental toughness, physical toughness. I mean, look at the Houston Texans game, right? That just took place this week. You have Jared Goff throw 5 interceptions. You have the offense completely stagnated. They continue to push the ball down the field, turnover. And they battle back and they find a way to win. That's what it's all about. Battling adversity, fighting against the odds. When I'm thinking about the New York Jets, the odds are stacked against this team right now. Ray Agnew could be an awesome pickup. K-Dude over on Twitter suggested Ray Agnew for general manager and Aaron Glenn as head coach. Obviously, you have that Detroit Lions connection coming over, and Glenn, who's a former Jet, someone who is well qualified to be a head coach, someone who will be taking multiple head coaching interviews this cycle. That could make a lot of sense here. If you like that pairing, physical toughness, accountability, taking a team that's not really in a good position and turning them in to one of the best ran franchises in football. A team that frankly no one wants to play. Home, away, doesn't matter. Detroit will always battle back when it comes to adversity throughout the game. If those traits are attractive to you, then Ray Agnew maybe would be your, number 1 or number 2 option. Coming in at number 5, we have Mike Greenberg from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, someone who is a financial genius, someone who is well known for his ability to manage the cap and to never put the Buccaneers in a poor or not so great financial position. Think about it. The Bucs are a great team, right? The Bucs have win now players. The Bucs found their quarterback of Baker, in Baker Mayfield, signing him to the initial 1-year, $5 million deal. But they continue to re-sign their own players throughout the years. Tristan Wirfs, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Levante David has been a career Buccaneer. Winfield, they're signing all these big contracts, but yet they're not in a bad position. They're never in a poor position. Baker Mayfield just re-signed to a team-friendly deal. There is a major push down because I live over here in Tampa. People love this guy, and they feel as though without him, it's very difficult to maintain a roster. And it's not to say, the Bucs can keep everyone. I mean, they just traded Carlton Davis away to Detroit. But, when you're talking about macro perspective here, someone who can look at the team's budget, look at where the team is, not only just in the present, but, years moving forward, That is, and also something to make a note of. Greenberg was there during the Brady era, which was when they were trying to bring in all these different guys: Antonio Brown, Gronkowski, Fournette, Richard Sherman, all these 1-year deals. Greenberg, and by the way, it's not to discredit Jason Light, obviously, the general manager of the team, but Mike Greenberg has always kind of been regarded as the mastermind behind the scenes when it comes to the financials. So you're looking at the Jets right now, we have a lot of questions, right? We have a lot of questions about contracts coming up. We have a lot of 1-year deals, who's going to be brought back. There's a ton of money owed to Aaron Rodgers, whether he continues to play or retires. The Jets owe him a ton of money. Joe Douglas's kind of MO in the last couple of seasons is just restructure the deal, push money into the future. I do not like that approach. Sometimes you have to do it. If you're win now, you got to restructure deals. Teams do it in football. But I just feel as though it's been too much of an excess at this point, right? We could talk about the Devontae Adams situation. Man, there's a lot of contract questions here, and Mike Greenberg definitely feels well positioned to take over and say, all right, let me go through this, sort this out, organize it, and get us on track here. So Greenberg for the Bucs, definitely interesting. And last but not least, this is someone who has a massive name, a massive reputation, but someone who isn't really being talked about all that much. Someone who has over 30 years of experience working in a front office, someone who has been a general manager before, somebody who has literally taken over the worst job in football at the time and flipped the script, turned the tables, and got that team back to a winning pedigree. It's John Dorsey. Dorsey is 64 years old, former player actually back in the 80s, but started his executive career with the Green Bay Packers, right? Scout, director of college scouting, then joins the Seattle Seahawks for a season, goes back to Green Bay, and ends up taking the Kansas City Chiefs GM spot back in 2013. And he was the Chiefs GM from 2013 through 2017. Quick side note, he did draft Pat Mahomes his last year in Kansas City. He follows up the KC job, becoming the Browns GM in 2017 through 2019. If we think back, Cleveland really turned the corner under Jonathan Dorsey, right? He took over this Browns team when they were just in the basement. I mean, just loss after loss after loss after loss. It was just a nightmare, right? And Dorsey steps in, takes over, and he turns him around. He actually turned him around. But, of course, the dagger, if you will, was, in my opinion, promoting Freddie Kitchens to head coach. He kind of felt like it wasn't the right move at the time, and it just didn't turn out to be the right move, and that was it. And you can argue, all right, maybe there was pressure from the organization because they wanted to keep Kitchens, and Kitchens had potential other jobs elsewhere, so we're not going to bring back Greg Williams, who looked pretty good during Baker Mayfield's rookie season as interim head coach. He actually beat the Jets on Thursday Night Football in Baker Mayfield's debut as Mayfield Darnold. Although I think Tyrod Taylor started that game for Cleveland, and Baker had to come in because of a Tyrod injury. And then the Browns stormed back late and won the game. Anyway, Dorsey laid the groundwork for the Browns, right? He kind of dug them out of the hole. After the Browns job, he became a consultant for the Eagles in 2020. And since then has been with the Detroit Lions since 2021. And it's funny, right? Because anytime you're watching like a Lions War Room video, you could always see Dorsey in the back, hanging out with a smile on his face. So this is someone who knows football. He knows what winning looks like. He's been a GM before. The job is not going to be too big for him. And he's also, I think, a good candidate in the sense of he can tell Woody, look, I got this. I don't need any interjection here. I don't need advice on how to do my job. Just give me the money so I can go out and target the players I want. I can find quarterbacks, draft in Mayfield, draft in Mahomes. I'm coming over from Detroit, a team that, really built through the draft and then is handpicking their free agents, handpicking their trades, Za'Darius Smith, Carlton Davis. But these teams are, Dorsey takes over or Dorsey steps in, says this is who we're going to be, this is what we are, and then we start working towards that. Football guy. I think Dorsey is the definition of a football dude. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And, I appreciate you guys tuning in, watching. Again, I know times are tough. Times are negative right now with the Jets, but man, I'm excited to see potential change. I really am. I'm excited to just turn the page on this season, assuming that, this year continues to look like it's been. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. And as always, go Jets.